Okay, so really the purpose of this presentation is I'm going to take you through how do we get the right people to the website. That's obviously one of, again, the first and foremost things that we need to do. And then as Dick said, he's going to take you through, okay, once we have them to the website, what do we do now to get them to do what we want them to do, which is essentially called a conversion. So there is a lot of different ways that we can essentially get people to a website. That's ultimately what we're kind of talking about when we talk about digital marketing. But here is again, like just to reiterate that is here's one of the biggest misconceptions is that there's a huge misconception here that it's the digital marketing's job to actually get them to do what you want them to do. It's really not. It's digital marketing's job again to get the right people at the right time to your website. Now, obviously there's a few different ways to kind of do this, as well as there are going to be different models on how to do this as well. So really, when we look at it, there are essentially two digital marketing channels on how to get people to the site. And that's essentially going to be search or social. And so with search is we're kind of talking about Google, search networks, Bing, all of those different types of search engines and search networks. We also have social, obviously social media, talking about Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. Now, you might see one great out there, and it's just something to kind of point out too is in today's world now, we will also see kind of a quasi third. Now, that's not really technically digital marketing, but it's important to at least talk about that. We talk about offline marketing, even something as simple as business cards, or when you do mailers or you do a billboard. Obviously, a lot of time in today's world, we're taking that offline marketing piece and then driving them to something online. To our website, of course, which again is what digital is doing. Now, we're going to focus a lot on the digital side of it today, but it is important to realize that that offline piece is a key component and can be super important as we go through this. So since we have the two marketing channels, then there are two different models to actually be able to kind of take that a step further. And the first model is called organic. And again, we'll get into these a little bit. That's going to be your search engine optimization. That's going to be posting on social media, those types of things that you're doing organically. And I'll get into kind of what that means a little bit further here too. And then the other one is paid. So this is actually paying a platform and essentially running ads. So you can really kind of see here as we're having two channels, and then within those channels, we have two options of organic and paid. That's ultimately how we want to kind of break down digital marketing. And this is going to be the essence of how we start putting together that strategy of, again, getting the right people at the right time to our website to ultimately do what we want them to do. So the first thing that we always like to kind of start with as well is demographics. So now we know obviously the models and the channels that we're going after, but we really need to step back. And this is a huge, again, important piece and a really important exercise that we need to kind of go through as a business to kind of figure out what's going to give us the best ROI and ultimately what's going to give us some of the best conversions and how do we sometimes even build our site around that. And it all starts with demographics. Ultimately, what a demographic is going to be is who do you want to target to get them to do what you want them to do? Now, here are just some different bullet points of things to kind of consider. Are you B2C, business to consumer? Are you B2B, business to business? That's obviously a different type of demographic. If potentially we have different age demographics, gender demographics, locations. Obviously, if I'm a plumber here in Minneapolis, I probably don't necessarily care about going after people in North Carolina. And so we need to kind of, consider those things. Current problems. Also understanding what someone might be searching for and having a problem. Again, going back to a plumber, is if someone are we an emergency plumber? Are we a sewer line plumber? Again, like within all of our industries, there's different niches and things that we might be wanting to go after or that we offer different clients and customers or potential customers. And this is what we need to also make sure that we fully understand it so that we can communicate this not only to our customers, but also even for this presentation, more importantly, the platforms such as Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Bing, et cetera, et cetera. Also, some other things is behavior, their likes and dislikes, their characteristics. SMB, are they a small business owner? Are you going after large businesses? Are you going after certain industries? Obviously, all of us are going to have different demographics that we're going after and that our different clienteles and potential clientele are going to be able to kind of target. But once we have that kind of list, and you can literally write this down on a piece of paper, you can start with doing it on a, again, on a computer. But then we also need to, here's one of the most important things to realize, is that I'm sure all of us, if we wrote down who we wanted to go after, I'm sure we can make a list that's probably 10, 20, 30 different characteristics long. But here's where it gets important, is who's going to give you the best value? Who's going to give you the best ROI, return on your investment? This is why I always tell clients to stay away from the coulds. What I mean by that is a lot of times start talking to clients and they say, well, we already talked about our demographics, but I could go after this person, or this person could buy my service. Stop the coulds. Again, you want to make sure that you're going after the people that are going to give you the best ROI, because again, remember, you're spending time, energy, and budget on this. And as we all know, again, we don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none. And so we want to stay focused. And that's where we want to make sure that we kind of get rid of the coulds and we stay focused with our demographics. And then last but not least is kind of building out that marketing plan. We know the different channels, we know the different models, and we're going to go into them a little bit further here. But we also want to just kind of consider that we need to start laying a plan of that. If that's setting aside a budget, if we're going to do paid, which we'll get into, if we're going to start setting up time and effort for blogs or articles or social media posts, we need to start kind of building out that plan and just kind of taking it step by step. So the first thing that we kind of talked about when we're talking about the different types of models, is organic marketing. Here's the best way to kind of think of organic marketing, is that it takes time and energy, but there's no direct cost to the platform, meaning that, again, you could potentially, now the only cost that there might be is you could hire an agency like myself or Dick, or you could even hire an employee or an intern or somebody else out there, but that money is not going directly to the platform. Like, you're not paying Google for SEO. You're not paying Facebook to just post on a daily basis. That's the key thing here with organic. And that's why we kind of call it organic, is it's naturally kind of growing and naturally, again, being listed and going from there. So these are some things to kind of look at when it comes with search. We have SEO. It's a lot of content creation, video creation, social media. It's, again, natural social media posts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's the ones that most likely you're seeing that don't say sponsored. They're the ones that we're posting on a daily basis. That's organic marketing. It really revolves around content creation and taking the time and energy to be able to kind of create this content and then distribute it on those platforms. So like one of the first ones, and so I want to kind of take you guys through a little bit of how we can actually start putting these kind of things together. So like, for instance, SEO is going to be search engine optimization. Really, again, this is the organic piece. This is usually kind of the essence of your organic digital marketing strategy. It's really, how do we communicate to Google what we do, where we do it, and then ultimately we want to get into Google's good graces, so they say why. Why should I rank you when somebody on google.com is searching for X, Y, and Z? So here are some of the things to kind of consider when we talk about SEO. Really, it's a matter of content. If you can just get around creating content, and there's a few different ways that we can do this, but this is ultimately what we're kind of talking about. So one thing I kind of like to kind of tell people too is we want to build content around keywords. Now, we don't necessarily want to focus on keywords, and there's a whole other strategy and things that we can talk about at a later point, but here's just at least on the basis of what you want to understand. When we're getting into organic marketing, we need to use keywords as a basis of how we're going to communicate this to Google, Bing, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea here is that you want to take your demographics, you want to take what you think people are searching for, and I highly recommend doing some keyword research. There's two platforms that I like to kind of recommend that even have a freemium model that you can even try out by yourself, even for free, and even go further into it. So those two platforms are called Moz, M-O-Z, as well as SEMrush. What these essentially do, again, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make that list of the demographics. You're going to make a list of your services. You're going to want to make a list of words that you think you would want to, to be found for, and you would want people to search for. And then we're going to try to verify that and potentially even discover new ones by using these platforms. Now, again, this is something you can use, by yourself. This is something that you could, again, get some help with. But the idea is that we want to start with these good kind of keywords, and we want to end with like a good list of usually 10 to 20, again, that really, exemplifies and really talks about what your business is. Why that's important is that's essentially kind of step one when we're creating content. Step two is actually creating that content. And so the different ways that we can kind of create content, for instance, you can see some of them listed here is, the first good way to kind of do this is every service that you do should have its own page. So again, we just don't want one service page that has a bunch of bullet points. We want to have one, again, page per service. Not only will this, again, help with SEO and get people more to the site, Dick, it also is going to help with conversions because of the way that it's going to communicate to a user. But for what we're talking about here is, again, it's creating specific content to that service. Also, for instance, if you want to write articles, if we want to do blogs, even photo galleries, videos, again, it's just revolving around content. But if we know our services, if we know our demographic, and we know our keywords, those are the three components that we can essentially use to create as much content as we, again, can. And really, that's kind of the name of the game. It's a quality versus a quantity. We honestly kind of need a little bit of both. We need sufficient amount of content. Now, it has to be quality. Like, you just don't want to write one page with one sentence on it. Again, on average, you want to have approximately 300 to 500 words per page. So again, there's at least some substance there, but the idea is starting to kind of create that. Another thing I always kind of like to talk about too, and this is, more or less kind of with your content, is, what would you like to read on your site? Put yourself into your potential consumer's hand or your actual other consumer hand as well, or in their mind, in their shoes, or whatever analogy you want to use, and understanding what they would want to read, how they would engage with your page. If you find, again, like if you think you put yourself in there, or you ask a family member, a friend, a question, it's a great way to obviously say, hey, did you get this message out of the content that I just wrote? Were you impelled to do a quote or to call me? Those are important things, and you can ask people around you for that. It's just getting in the head of user experience, meaning when someone reads your content, again, is it exemplifying your demographics, your services, and ultimately your keywords, again, for that content there. So another big one is YouTube. So actually creating videos. This is one that we have a presentation that we go, completely in, but this is also one, if you're looking for, well, Ben, what is one of those newer ways, or what's one way that is going to give a huge ROI is, again, for content creation, for SEO, for bringing people to the site, for bringing people to my brand, YouTube is going to be one of those great ones. It's, video is obviously exploding. I'm sure all of us, obviously we're on a video right now. We're recording this to be able to watch later. Videos are just becoming more and more popular. And also, it's important to realize that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So if we're spending all our time going after Google, which is great because they're the #1 search engine, we should be spending time though going after the second largest search engine in the world, which is YouTube. Now, a lot of times people, can get afraid of videos and think that we're talking about that we need to have a film crew every time, or we need to have potentially a bunch of knowledge of how to create videos. And that's just simply not the case. You can, yes, having a film crew can create great content, and it's something you absolutely should look into. But also being realistic, we might not have that opportunity every time. And for instance, to give you an idea, is when I do these webinars and workshops, we record them and we put them on YouTube. That's, I'm pretty much kind of doing double dipping there. I'm already doing the workshop, and so I'm being able to do that. We work with some clients, for instance, that will just open up a Zoom and maybe even have another person or two jump on, and they have a discussion about some type of topic. Maybe it's you take your blog post and you try to just, pretty much put that now into verbal words and have a conversation about that on a camera. Maybe you do an infographic video, so you're not even on there anymore. There's you can look at promo video. You can look at Powtoons. There's a couple different programs out there that you can actually start to look at creating some animation videos if you don't want to be on camera. The idea here is, especially with all of these devices, with our laptops, with our computers, with especially our iPhones and smartphones, is that there's a lot of different way to kind of create content, and especially video content. Another one I'll just give you an example of could just be behind the scenes video. If you've got a cool operation, if you're a printer, if you're making something, taking someone kind of behind the scenes, maybe introducing your team. Again, like there's a lot of ways to kind of create video content. And it's the same way as, written content. It's just, I will admit that there's sometimes a little bit more energy or creativity that has to sometimes go into those videos, which can scare people. But this is a very important way on how to take it to the next level. Another big one for organic marketing is social media. We kind of talked about that one at the beginning. And it's really, part of this strategy is finding out what social media platform best fits your business. We also want to make sure, for instance, that we're creating enough content, even just like with our website. We just don't want to just create service pages and be done with it. We want to continuously be creating blogs, be creating articles, adding on to our service pages, adding more content, video galleries, photo galleries. The same thing with social media. We obviously just don't post once and everybody comes flocking to us. It's a matter of actually creating this content. Why this is important though, is we can utilize social media when we get good organic content to obviously, push them to our site. And then ultimately, which Dick will talk about, is how do we then kind of convert them? So it's a really kind of key kind of component as well out there. It does take a lot of content as well, but ultimately that's kind of the name of the game here. So some things to kind of even look at too is if you're kind of curious, maybe with some trends on, okay, Ben, well, maybe I've been doing social media, but how do I create the best content? What is the best content? Well, here's some things to kind of look at that are really kind of social trends right now in 2021. So one of them is that we kind of teach people is understanding kind of the generations, different platforms, and kind of the messaging you want to put on them. So to give you a couple examples is, baby boomers' number one platform is Facebook. So again, if going back to if that's part of our demographic, absolutely Facebook should be a part of our strategy. Millennials, their number one preferred platform right now is Instagram. Again, if they're part of our demographic, we should absolutely have that a part of our strategy. Again, this goes back to organic. We're kind of creating these organic kind of relationships. We're creating this content. We're not having it paid to the platform. We're just, this is the photos, the links, the videos, all of that kind of stuff that we're putting on there. Another, good trend that we're seeing right now is reusing content, but kind of conform to that platform. So we have the same message, but then we just kind of conform it there. So like, for instance, Instagram is going to use more hashtags than Facebook is. Obviously, Instagram, it's a little bit more visual, or the pictures are going to, again, be a little bit different. So it's understanding a little bit there, but this is probably one of the most important, tips I can give you is that sometimes people get so tunnel vision when they want to try to create content that they think that they need to kind of create the Mona Lisa for every single time that they're posting, or for every single channel, or for every single platform. It's okay that if you, again, if you wrote a blog and you love that, well, let's try and get as much out of that as possible. If we have that blog, let's create that into a video. Let's create that maybe into a couple different social media posts across the internet. And again, we get the most value out of it, the best ROI there. Another huge one that we're seeing right now is called user-generated content. Actually taking content that other people are creating and then you being able to kind of build off of that content. The best example of this is, for instance, reviews. If you get a review on Google My Business, again, consider taking that and now sharing that. You're taking someone else's content that they created. Think about if someone tags you on a social media post. If, again, someone else is taking pictures, someone says something, it's taking their content that they've generated and created, and then now you are being able to kind of share that. So it's being a little bit more kind of creative in that aspect, but then also, you're not doing as much of the work there too. You're just kind of utilizing theirs. Also, it's important just to realize too that right now users are much more socially conscious with everything kind of being, again, going on in the world, and also how brands are reacting to it. So you can figure out how that kind of flows in there. But this is a huge social trend that we're kind of seeing with there. Also, social media influencers being, what we're actually finding out is we're having these micro influencers, people that have built up a following either within your industry or, that you potentially are targeting, and it's potentially maybe having some partnerships or things like that. And then last but not least is social shopping. This is really exploding, especially on Facebook and Instagram. We can start to like tag products to be able to have people purchase them, but we're not directly selling them as much as we potentially used to. Meaning that if you do a social post, we may not have to say, oh, hey, here's this new hat, buy it now. You could then kind of flip that around, and then you had the link there. You can now flip it around and be like, hey, again, honestly, just having a picture of you in a hat, and then you now just taking that picture with that hat now is essentially kind of a soft sell. So again, not only is it important to realize that we have to create content, but the reason I share some of these social trends is because this is going to influence how we create that content, or what we're creating, or what aspects are going into that, which again, ultimately we're doing this to get more people to the site, to get the correct people to the site. Again, if we know what the trends are out there, if we know our demographics, if we know our channels, our models, all of these different kind of things, we can start to set up this content that goes directly to them to get them to the site. So paid media and paid marketing. So we talked about organic. So here's kind of the big twist here is it not only takes time and energy just like organic, but now we're actually paying the platform to distribute your ads with your ad budget. You also get more control on the platform to target your demographics, whereas organic is essentially going to be influencing. We can influence Google, but we can't directly kind of control it. Paid marketing, though, is kind of the opposite. It's still going to take time and energy, but now we actually get to control that platform and our distribution to our demographics on there. So one's going to be influence, one's going to be pretty much kind of control. And so here's kind of an example with search. We have our Google ads, we have our search network, social media, we have social media ads on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. as well. You can kind of start to see that a lot of this is going to be some of the same stuff we're talking about, but how we distribute it and how we implement it is going to be different. So for instance, like with paid marketing, we talked about some of the different organic pieces that we can do with blogs and articles and videos and things like that. Now with ads, we can actually supplement those efforts to even get more people and control our message to our demographic even more with things like Google AdWords. We can do display ads. So we can pretty much virtual billboards. If you've ever put something in your shopping cart and then for the next 3 days, it's followed you around the internet, that's retargeting. So we can target people that way off of the kind of their behavior. We can do YouTube ads. If you've ever watched a YouTube video and you see the video beforehand or you see it on YouTube, these are things that we can do. There are Gmail ads, there's Google Shopping. So if you ever search for a product and we see those different products up there. Again, ultimately, there's a strategy for each one of these that obviously, unfortunately, we don't have a time today to kind of get into. But really what we're kind of getting after here is you can see that there is an abundance of ways to be able to target these and either influence or control it. Same thing with social advertising. Again, we can go after them, from a behavior standpoint. One of the biggest things that I always like to kind of remind people too is the reason that social media is free is because every time you do something on social media, they're tracking it and essentially creating an avatar or a profile of you to then take that profile and sell it to marketers like ourselves. So meaning that, again, like for myself, if I'm liking, dog, pictures and posts and I'm posting about it and I'm talking about the local Minnesota restaurants, obviously all of those things and all those action and behavior and engagements that I'm doing on that platform essentially starts to create who Ben is and then be able to market that to somebody else like yourself when you're doing those. Obviously, why that's super important for you as a marketer is it's all behavioral. We can essentially now control the demographic we're going after from a behavior standpoint, saying, again, we set up our demographics way at the beginning. We set up kind of those keywords. We know our services. Now we can start to essentially take that information, put that into the system here with Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and be able to kind of target them very specifically. So with that said, I know that's a lot to kind of absorb. The idea though is to kind of start to give you an idea of these different types of models and channels that you can essentially bring people to the website on. Again, obviously there is a lot more in depth that we can go. I encourage you to reach out if you have questions. I know Dick and I are looking to do some more workshops that we can kind of go more in depth to these. I know we offer some of these there, but with that said is hopefully this gives you an idea of, okay, wow, I've got a lot of options on how to bring the right people at the right time to my website. And then ultimately now I want to turn it over to Dick to kind of tell you is once they get to your website, how do we get them to do what you ultimately want them to do, which is going to be called a conversion.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. So while Ben is switching over our slides to the conversion, I just want to give a round of applause for Ben for doing an awesome job. So. Sure. What was that? Make sure they can hear you. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right, can I get some thumbs up in Zoom if you guys can hear me all right? Awesome. Thank you, Regina. I see some thumbs up. Can you guys hear me all right? All right, so today we're going to be talking about, I got to go back a couple slides here. See the beginning of time. How's that sound? So today we're going to be talking about traffic, turning traffic that Ben is generating for your website or yourself, if you're doing a DIY or you have a team or whatever it is that you're going about getting that traffic to your website. How are you going to turn them into conversions? That's paying customers, that's subscribers on your newsletter. They're perhaps being a part of your community online. They're following you on Twitter. Whatever your conversion metric is, whatever your goal is at the end of a campaign, if you're trying to build a following, build a brand, or increase revenue, that is called the conversion. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of pre-work. So I want everybody on Zoom and in person, take out your notes, and I want you to write down 3 things. Number 1, I want you to write down the amount of top line revenue that you want to achieve in the next 12 months. Write down the amount of top line revenue you want to achieve in the next 12 months. Number 2, I want you to add a date to it. We're not going to go super deep into SMART goal setting. I'm sure everybody's familiar, but I want you to put a date, right? So 12 months is kind of the date that we want to do. And then number 3, what percentage of your revenue today comes from your customers that found your business online first? AKA, they found you through targeted traffic, like Ben just talked about. So how many leads, how many paying customers are you getting from your marketing initiatives that Ben just talked about? All right, so that should be a percentage. Now, does anybody here, I want to see thumbs up on Zoom or hands raised in the audience, how many people have over 20% of your revenue this last year came from online leads? So we've got 1 in the audience, we've got none on Zoom. Okay, so there's opportunity, right? There's opportunity, especially this last year. Last year, I would expect that most people's leads came from online because very few people were going to events, seeing pop-up shops, things like that, right? So here are the 3 topics we're going to learn, and kind of the itinerary for my portion of the talk is, first thing we're going to talk about is 10 tactics that you can use on your website today to start increasing that percentage that we just talked about, that you just wrote down, that third thing you wrote down, getting that past 20%, getting that to 50%, 90%, right? Because you can only go so far. You can only hand out so many flyers. You can only make so many phone calls. The beauty about online marketing that Ben just described is it's scalable. You can reach essentially everyone who speaks that language, or even if it's a video and you can do nonverbals, you can reach anybody with a good internet connection in that social network, right? So 10 tactics to do that you can do today. Number 2 is we're gonna do Q&A at the end. And then at the end, we have a survey and a giveaway. So it takes about 5 minutes to fill out the survey. And if you would do that, we're gonna pick 1 random participant afterwards. So we'll be reaching out to you via email for winning a free $60 one-on-one or 2-on-1 consultation with us. So about me, so my name is Polipnick. Why am I giving this presentation? So I'm the founder of Online Growth Systems. So like I said, before we started recording, I help companies scale, so Scott's part of our team. We've got a small team here in Minneapolis and St. Paul that helps companies scale from 1 million to 500 million online. So this is the exact thing that we're gonna be talking about today is what we actually do every single day in our business. Did you know that only 0.4% of companies make it past $10 million in annual revenue? And this is from the source Scaling Up, which is a book written by the Gazelle Group. Has anybody heard of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization? So we got Ben. How about EOS? We got another one. EOS, I see a couple. Yep. Anybody online? Thumbs up, EOS or EO? Awesome. So this is from that book. So this is done by research of, there's 28 million firms, I believe, and this is the United States, and only 0.4% make it past 10 million. So we want you guys to be past that. And if you already are past that, you're going to get past that next hurdle you see on the slide, right? So where's your company at? Ask yourself that question. And today we're going to not only increase that first percentage that we talked about, but we want you to jump past that, what Vern Harnish calls the valley of death, right? So here we're going to be diving into the meat and potatoes, the 10 tactics to increase conversions on your website. Number one, these are going to be super tactical. Write these down. Is a countdown timer. Everybody's seen them. And almost every single one of these 10 tactics you've seen in the wild, if you're an online shopper and you've ever used it, if you ever used a Shopify site, Amazon, whatever, the best thing to do is look at your competitors, look at companies that are doing a bajillion dollars in revenue like Amazon, and say, what are they doing that I can do in my business? Because those principles, a lot of those principles can be applied in your business too. So number one is add a countdown timer. Here's Shein, which is a online clothing company. I just heard about it, and I'm definitely behind the curve on that front because it's not my wheelhouse, but my girlfriend made me buy some new shorts for the summer just a couple of weeks ago, and it was a great experience. So countdown timer. Number two is an exit pop-up. If you've ever gone on a website, once your mouse starts to go above the website, there's JavaScript, there's code on that website that can sense when your mouse leaves that frame and starts to, like, let's say, leave that website, you're about to click X, you're gonna go to a new tab, you're gonna minus the window, and then it triggers a piece of JavaScript and it pulls up a pop-up like you see on the screen here. And it says, wait, before you go, subscribe to our newsletter and we'll send you an email for your next order, 10% off, right? Not only, the thing about this is not only are you getting them at a weak point in your funnel where they might be looking to exit your website, but you're also doing two other benefits. You're collecting emails and building a list for later conversion, and you're offering them an incentive, like a promo code usually, and that'll incentivize them to convert later. So this has multiple benefits, both short-term for getting that immediate conversion and long-term for collecting that email address. Number three is offer a $1 or free trial. And of course, if you're a construction company, this is going to be really difficult. You can't, oh yeah, free trial, we'll build your house for you for free. First one's on us. You know, call us in 20 years when you're doing your next one. So obviously these aren't, you can't apply all of these tactics to every single business, but you can think about, what can I offer for free? A free estimate for building your house, right? There's different things that you can offer that your competitors might not be. And then you have to think about how can I outmaneuver my competitors and make a unique value proposition to hook people into wanting to work with us. And then once I have them in my funnel, then it's just a matter of closing the deal. If you have got a great sales team, you've got great marketing, and you have that weakness in the middle of your funnel, it's tactics like number three here that can help you kind of get from qualified traffic to a closed deal. Number four is personalize landing pages. So if you don't know what a landing page is, I'm going to make you look it up, but essentially a landing page is a part on your website, a page on your website that is intentionally built for traffic that Ben was talking about coming to your website. So it's not the home page where you're kind of giving every piece of information available. It's a specific page that's built for a particular piece of traffic. Let's say that Ben's setting up targeted traffic for business owners that are like home buyers that are, you know, just got married in the last 2 years and they are giving buying signals on Facebook. You know, there's analytics that are showing that they're giving buying signals. They're starting to look up things that related to how much does it cost to build a house, etc. Google starts to recognize that and shows them display ads based on their search history in the last 6 months. So what you can do is create that trigger, right? So buying signal, they go through the ad and then they come to a landing page. But what's going to increase your conversion rate is having it personalized. So you can have, and obviously later in funnel, you can do this even more, but if you can build your website and there's certain code you can use where it can use the user's name on their website. So like this one says, Catherine, turn your unused space into your family's favorite place and get free 50-inch plasma TV, right? So it's using Catherine, it knows the person's name and it's customizing it to Catherine because she's the one who's looking at the page. And that's a dynamic piece of code. And that name will change based on who's looking at your website. And of course, if you can have default, like if it's your website's being looked at by somebody it doesn't, and your website doesn't know the name of said person, you can have it say like, hey, you, exclamation point, right? So there's other ways to make yourself not look bad too. Number 5 is personalized images, taking tactic number 4 and applying it to images. Here is a tool called Pick Snippets. That is a great tool. They have a free trial. Wow, weird. and they are showing you how their tool works. So in your database, like this is showing an example in Gmail. So you're sending Gmail message, and depending on who you're writing it to, Matthew, Jamie, Gerald, it's gonna edit the image itself with the user, with the customer's name, their first name. So the picture looks like it's handwritten or it's a little bit customized, and that's gonna intrigue them a little bit more, and it's make you stand out. Number 6 is retargeting. Now, everybody knows about advertising, right? And Ben talked about this in his talk, is there's retargeting pixels, specifically Facebook pixel, right? LinkedIn has one called conversion tag. Twitter has one called analytics tag. So there are different conversion tags that you can put on your website, and they take a couple hours to set up. And what's great about them is you can set them up on your website. And even if you're not planning to market on Twitter today, you can have it on your website collecting data for the next few years. And then if and when you decide to start marketing on Twitter, it has 6 years worth of user data, specifically traffic that has been on your website, so you can retarget them later, like Ben was saying. So definitely recommend that. And a good little tip there is look into Google Tag Manager. That's a little bonus tip for number 6. Google Tag Manager will help you manage all of these tags. If you start to get past 2 of them, I usually recommend implementing Google Tag Manager. It helps you keep it nice and clean, and you don't have to dive into the code. So you don't have to be a developer to do this. Number 7 is quizzes. Everybody's seen the quiz. Maybe you've taken one. Personality tests are a big one. Part of our hiring process at our company is I have our potential future employees take a personality test. I don't do that as a way of disqualifying them. I do that as a way of fostering a conversation and say, hey, according to this personality test, it says like, these are your strengths. What are your thoughts on that? And it gets the conversation going. And then I also can use it and say, hey, it's according to your test results, these are your weaknesses. How are you planning to overcome those at your job? So when somebody fills out those quizzes, you can capture their information. Not only are you capturing their contact info, like we'll email you your results, right? We're going to text you your results. You're also gathering a lot of data on that user ethically, right? You're not capturing it with them without their consent. They're submitting it on your website. So you get to ask questions that might give them the results that they're looking for, a free estimate instantly on your website, a free personality quiz, right? You could ask questions, that are giving buying signals, like what products should we market to this person based on their personality quiz, or based on their, which hair products works the best for your hair, right? You can send them a targeted ad, or you can write a blog post and send it to them via email, personally, one-on-one sales rep, based on if they said they had blonde or brunette hair, right? Or maybe they're redhead, right? Number 8 is lead magnets. Lead magnets. Now, everybody's perhaps heard of one or you've used one, but the key with lead magnets is you have to make them valuable for your audience. What are they looking up that's either number 1, hard for them to find, or number 2, is better than the things that are already out there? Everybody's got a blog post or a YouTube video, right? But what can you do above and beyond that? If you're writing blogs and you're making YouTube videos and you're making content on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, right? That is kind of, imagine a university is teaching 101 type courses. How can you provide a lead magnet that's 2 or 2.0 or 202 courses, right? 302 or 301 courses, right? So the next level, an MBA level course for whatever it is, that piece of content that they were looking up. So this is a tactic that Scott, who's taking some pictures right now, he actually helps us do this with our clients, is he will shoot a video with a client that'll talk about, let's say that they're talking about conversion optimization, right? They can say, at the end of this talk, you can download this link and it'll show you an extra 10 tips, right? So I'm going to show you the first 10. This isn't real. I'm just making it up as I go, but it's a good idea now that I'm saying it out loud, right? But essentially you could say, here are 10 in this YouTube video or in this talk for free. Go to our website and fill out this form, and you're going to get the next 10. You're going to get 11 through 20. And it's going to help you increase your conversion rate, right? So those are lead magnets that people will want to get. Number 9, call to actions. Hopefully you know what this is, but why are call to actions important? 2 mistakes that we see with our clients when they start working with us is, number 1, they don't have enough call to actions, or number 2, their conversion or their call to actions aren't really that calling to action, right? They're more suggestions, recommendations. Hey, if you liked our offering, consider giving us a call. No, you want something like this. Start a free trial of the marketing platform. Learn more about the sales platform. Different call to actions. Depending on where your prospect is in the sales funnel or in the marketing funnel, they might have questions still. Maybe they're a quick buyer, they're a decision maker, and they have to make a lot of decisions in a day, and they want to make a decision fast. They want to make it right now. Give them an option. Talk to a sales rep. Book a time, right? There's a tool called HubSpot, which are Calendly, which provides free calendar integration with your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, right? And it can integrate with your calendar, and they can book a time with you that day, same day. You can even say, I want at least a 1 hour heads up, so they can't book with you in 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden you get a notification and you're hanging with your family. So you can set it up accordingly to your preferences, but you want to give them different call to actions based on where they are in the conversion cycle. Last but not least, annual subscriptions. This is another thing that you can get creative depending on what business you're in, what industry, right? But annual subscriptions, you can see here, this is a screenshot from a tool that we use called PandaDocs. It's a way that our customers can sign documents online. They can do online signatures. So what they have is you can pay, let's say there's a free version. Remember, that was one of the tips we already talked about. Look at all these call to actions. You can kind of see multiple here. But here's Essentials package starting at $20, $19 per month per user, right? Now, if you see here, there's a toggle up here which says annual or monthly. So right now you're looking at the annual plan and it says save 24% with annual plans. You want to offer customers 10 to 25% off or 2 months out of a year or something like that if they sign up for an annual contract versus a month to month. And number 10, what's nice is this can actually go vice versa. If you're currently offering annual subscriptions, annual plans, annual memberships, try flipping it and say, okay, we usually charge $100 a year. Instead, let's charge $10 a month. You just increased your revenue with that customer by 20% if they do stay all year, right? And you're making the barrier to entry, the threshold, the commitment threshold lower. You're lowering the risk, which is going to increase conversion. And if they stay with you because you're doing a good job and you are good, you just increased your revenue by 20%, right? So think about it the other way around too. We've got a little bonus one here for you. Number 11, you're using testimonials. Ben talked about it in his presentation. Share your testimonials on your social media. Share it on your email newsletter. What we're recommending is put it on your website, right? Yes, they can find you through organic traffic and organic marketing via Google. There's another one coming up. Facebook. Yelp is somewhere. TripAdvisor. Come on, where's Yelp? I think Yelp was in there. Maybe it got cut off, but nope, there it is. So Yelp, right? So all of these platforms can send you traffic, but what about the customers that are going directly to your website? Maybe they saw a blog, maybe they saw a video on YouTube and they went to your website. They don't know what the reviews are on those platforms because they're not on your website. So add them. Not only are reviews good, but testimonials. Written testimonials are excellent. Video testimonials are better. Video testimonials have consistently increased our customers' optimization significantly, especially if you start to combine these 11 tactics all on one page. So if you have a landing page, have video testimonials, right? Have an exit pop up if they try to leave, have pictures and the page itself optimized to that customer with their first name, maybe last name, things like that, right? And that's when you start to combine these tactics and you offer them a lead, a lead magnet, you offer them a free, whatever, you offer them monthly and annual plans, right? That's when you say, wow, each one of these tips could increase your conversions by 2%, which could increase your revenue by 2%. But when you start to adding them up, that's when you start to get that snowball effect. And that's when you really start to make an online marketing machine, right? See that? Catch? So when Ben's sending you all that targeted traffic, make sure that you're getting your bang for your buck, right? Here are the listing platforms that we have. So here's some extra resources based on that 11th tactic. So here's all listing platforms here specific to you guys. So there's 2 slides here. If you are a digital company, you're selling a digital service, a digital product, your SaaS, your e-commerce, something like that. These are the platforms that you want. Some of them are going to have shared, right? Like Google My Business should be for pretty much everybody. If you're a brick and mortar or you're a service-based business, these are the platforms you want to be on: AngelList, Yellow Pages, Yelp, Bing, Google Maps, Foursquare, right? TripAdvisor if you're a tourist-oriented company, right? And with that, that concludes the conversion optimization. And now it'll be Ben and I for Q&A.
Do we have any questions online?
We don't have anything right now.
Okay. Well, that's totally fine. Does anybody have any question out here? What's the process? What's the process of working with you guys? Where do you start? I mean, you gave us a good list here. Yeah. And how does it, we can't do 100% of everything. Well, I guess it depends on the budget, right? But what's your general process? Yeah. So the question, just to kind of make sure everyone can kind of hear it too, is so where do we start? Where do we start with us? Where do you start with you? Because obviously we don't have an unlimited budget, and obviously we have to figure out. We gave you guys a lot of stuff to kind of look at. Dick was giving you guys 11 different things to look at. I gave you a bunch to kind of look at. So where do we kind of start? So I'll kind of talk about like a little bit of my perspective, and then I'll hand it over to Dick. And so really for us it is all about ROI. And so it's understanding, again, like, yes, you can approach it that you have this type of budget and, to try to get out of it, again, what you want. But a lot of times what we try to tell people is, okay, what are you wanting to accomplish? Like, what are your different types of goals? And then seeing what that's going to cost to kind of do it. Because again, like I always tell people, it doesn't matter if you spend $100 out with us or 10,000, it's all about ROI. If we can show the ROI, then, again, it's not necessarily going to matter the dollar amount. Now, yes, we all have budgets and we've all things to kind of do it. So from a tactical kind of standpoint, that's how we kind of start. Now, again, when you start talking more of like an optimization kind of standpoint, I think you might be able to kind of see here is, well, we first have to get these platforms. So we have to, make sure we have a website, to make sure we have a Facebook account, that we have a local listing, those types of things. But a lot of times people have those done, and you might have to go back and, maybe after this or doing some more research, realizing how to optimize those. But that's where I would kind of say to kind of start.
Yeah, I'm going to have you guys write on your notes. Out of those 11, I want you to circle one that you think is applicable, number one, to your industry and to your clients, to your customer base. But number two, what's something that's like doable in the next 24 hours? And if you're worried about if this is doable in 24 hours, everything I just mentioned, it can be done in probably an hour, right? When you start to like look at like combining all of those things, that's when it starts. Now you're looking at quite a while, right? But you can start taking micro steps. So for example, I included a lot of tools like pick snippets you could do today. You could probably do it right after this talk. You can get it done by 1:00 p.m. today, right? So that would be my first recommendation, is circle one that is most applicable to you. Take action on it. And like you were saying, right, you want to do it in a phased approach. You don't want to take off more than you can chew, and you don't want to be pursuing initiatives that aren't going to have a return on investment, like Ben was saying, right? So that's why we had those slides where it's separating, like if you are a tourist-based business, let's say you're a brewery, it's not going to matter if you're on Clutch, right, for reviews, right? It's going to have zero impact. So you want to make sure that you're spending your time where it makes the most sense and where you think your customers are in their customer journey and where they're going to see you, find you, what's going to be most effective to them. I would also recommend a great tip is look at your Google Analytics. Look at your traffic that you are getting. Number one, if you aren't getting traffic, that's when you refer to the first half of the workshop today and say like, okay, I need to increase my traffic. If you are getting traffic, but you're not getting conversions, you're not getting emails, you're not getting customers booking meetings with you, then you have a conversion problem, right? So you look at your Google Analytics and figure out where in your funnel are they falling off, right? I kind of alluded to that at one point where I was saying if they're in the middle, like let's say that you're really good at closing once they book with you, and you're really good at getting traffic, that just means you have to convert them, right? So, but if you find out that you're getting a lot of traffic and you're getting a lot of booked meetings, but you're not selling, that means you have a selling problem. You got to talk to somebody who's a sales coach, right? Or maybe you got to change your slide deck.
And I think, yeah, it boils down to just, again, getting that benchmark of where you're at and starting to identify these things, like just looking out and knowing some of the people that are on here. We have some, that don't have a website yet. They're kind of preliminary at getting that stuff going. Well, that's obviously one place to start. And we have some people on here that, again, I think Google Analytics is a great place to start, but start identifying all these platforms that we've talked about. Start identifying, if we haven't done an exercise where we identify our demographics and do keyword research and our services, we'll start there. We got to lay the foundation first and then build on it. If you start trying to go to step 4 and we don't have step 1 done, obviously, again, that's when people get frustrated. That's honestly when people come back to us and say, well, this doesn't work. Oh, I spent a lot of money here and I got nothing. It's like, okay, let's start looking back at this and we realize that we didn't plan accordingly. And as the proverbial as in you get, that. So, does that answer your question? It does. Okay.
I kind of have another one, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So out of the 10 tactics where there's 11 days, would you say that you could have too many? Like you use the shopping online as an example with your girlfriend and bought some shorts. They had a time where they had 3, whatever you call it, the mouse goes up and it says, hey, but wait.
Yep.
Is there too many?
Yes. So the question is there such a thing as too many optimizations? If you do all 11, the answer is you're going to have a horrible user experience, right? You're like, boom, 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 pop up, right? And especially like nowadays, if it's their first time on your website, you have to say, hey, we have cookies, right? So there's the ones that we talked about, plus there's like the legal ones you have to have, like terms and conditions the first time that they go there. If you have that little bubble on the bottom right of your website that says chat with customer support live time, right? Or you have a funnel bot that's like through HubSpot or something, that's going to be wholly overwhelmed Batman, right? So the answer is yes. And the answer to what is the right number, that's going to be different on a case-by-case basis. But essentially you want to say, if I'm a customer going through my user buying journey for the first time, what do I want to see and when, and what pages do I want to see them on? You don't want to have testimonials on every single page of your website. It's landing pages, right? It's frequently asked questions maybe, right? You don't want to have, if you're doing a blog post, you don't really want to have a testimonial embedded into a blog post unless it's about a particular service, right? And then it's a call to action at the end, right? If you want to know how to tactically do that, what we do with our clients is we open up an incognito window in Google Chrome and we actually record it. We video record it, walking through that buyer process as if we were looking at the brand for the first time with new eyes, because then you're getting every pop-up that you haven't received for 2 years because you're on your website every day and it only shows pop-ups the first time that people are on it. So open it incognito, walk through it. Even better is get a third-party person to open it for the first time, and you just do not say a word and you just look over their shoulder and you watch them. What buttons are they clicking? What links are they going to, right? And if they go through that whole process and they say, I still don't know what you sell, you've got a copy problem, right? You've got a communication problem. It doesn't matter how many optimizations you have. If they don't know what you're selling, you can't sell anything.
And that goes back to, when I was talking about content, I even had that user experience, which it's funny because user experience usually is going to be pertaining to what Dick was talking about. But this is exactly what I was trying to kind of convey in the user experience one is anybody out here that if you're running a business, you're running a website or anything, is you have that kind of insider knowledge to what usually your clientele is kind of looking for because you hear it on a daily basis. So it's trying to, and sometimes it's hard to kind of put yourself in, again, their shoes, as Dick was saying, kind of go through it, but then also get some of that other type of feedback from other people that may not, begin there. But if you're constantly hearing something of somebody's problem, well, then let's make sure with user experience that we have that in the content, that we, begin, that they know what to do next. So it's really kind of bringing those two things together.
James.
On reviews, is there, so like most people are comfortable doing Google reviews, is there a benefit to having them do or stopping promoting Google with my clients and more asking Yelp and Angie's List and things like that?
Yeah, great question. So the question is, if customers are willing to give you a review or a testimonial, right? How many platforms can you ask them to leave it on? It depends on the client and how excited they are about you, right? So we worked with a client, St. Gianna Clinic out of Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and their team loved us. We went above and beyond. They've got a great cause behind. It's a nonprofit hospital clinic, right? So we went above and beyond the SOW kind of a thing. We delivered more than they paid for, kind of a deal. And they were just so ecstatic about the deliverables that we gave them that they said, we want to leave you a review. And we said, great, well, here's a link so you can leave us a review on Google My Business. And then they left an amazing review. And then we reached back out to them and we said, hey, we just love the review you left. Would you be willing to take another 5 minutes and also leave it for us on, Scott, what's the name of that platform? I'm blanking right now. No, it was the one that we have on the bottom right. Trustpilot, thank you. Trustpilot, right? So that was one of the logos that was up there, and it's more digital oriented, right? For companies like agencies, right? So it depends on the client, but the answer to your question is yes, you can ask clients to do more than one. Although I wouldn't be presumptuous and say like, hey, here's 5 links, please leave us a review in all 5. It's
like,
case by case.
The 2 things that I would say, James, and people that are watching with that too is, yes, again, some of these platforms are going to be a little bit more valuable sometimes than other ones, just because, again, depending on where your demographic kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
And as Dick said, we have to be careful with having them say, oh, hey, you decided to take the time out of your day to write 1. Can you write 5 more? But so a lot of times what I kind of recommend is kind of 2 things. Is usually everybody has their preferred, again, kind of platform. Usually it boils down to, if we look across the board, not getting into the digital kind of split, but it's usually Google, Facebook, or Yelp is usually how someone, again, has a preference. I usually try to give people an option to kind of do what you're saying, to kind of spread them out sometimes, of 2 to 3 different kind of platforms. What we find out that it also does is it not only helps us get, obviously, reviews on multiple platforms, it actually also helps us get just more reviews. Because there are some people that, for instance, maybe are frustrated with Google and don't like using Google. Maybe, again, like if you only send people a Facebook link and they don't have a Facebook account, well, now you're cutting yourself short.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of a combo of what kind of Dick was saying, but I would also recommend you when you're asking somebody for a review, give them 2 or 3 choices, because they're most likely, the first barrier of entry is just getting a review. And then it might be taking it, making a step further from there and maybe getting more out of it from that point.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other questions from Zoom? Feel free to jump in the chat there or in the audience. Otherwise, we're happy to stay in chat afterwards too. Awesome.
Well, awesome. Well, again, we really want to appreciate it, guys. I know Zoom, I really appreciate you guys kind of tuning in. Like we said, this is kind of our first, hybrid event, obviously starting to come together. I'm super excited we're able to kind of do this. I want to appreciate you guys for, again, coming here. I want to appreciate you guys for tuning in. And I also want to say, appreciate Dick for coming over and being able to do this presentation with us.
Absolutely. And before everybody heads out on Zoom and here, we've got, we can go to the one more slide. There's that link there. So we'll get out of the way for people on Zoom. So if you scan this with your phone, with your camera app, it'll give you a QR code. It'll open up a Google form that'll take, in reality, it's 30 seconds, right? But we said 5 minutes, so you have expectations, but essentially, and if you're willing, you can either, like Ben was saying, we're going to give you the option. You can fill it out once and make it just general, or if you want to fill it out twice, it's going to be 60 seconds total. And you can fill it out first time for Ben, and maybe just put something in the notes, and then second time for myself. So that way we can get feedback and how we can improve. And yeah, that'd be great.
We'd love to know what you guys potentially even want to learn about. Obviously, any way that we can improve. So we just want to say, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. We love doing this, and this is obviously great to partner with you and kind of be able to do that. So with that said, obviously, if anyone else has further questions, I always like to kind of say too, is if something comes up as you're rewatching this, as you're looking over the notes, maybe there was just something you didn't want to bring up in the group, obviously you're going to have both of our Dick and I's contact information. Please reach out. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to help kind of understand that. Obviously, like we were saying too, is we're talking about a lot of different businesses. We have B2B, B2C, digital, service, product. There's a lot of different ones, and obviously we got to try and cover all of them. So if you do have some specific kind of questions, really encourage you to kind of reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Cool.